Hello, my name's Leslie from Heisel, and with us today is the director and co-founder of Marshall Center for Global Chain Management at the University of Southern California. He instructs Lean Six Sigma and supply chain courses, Mr. Nick Vyas. Welcome, Nick.
Good afternoon.
And Nick, you are basically educating the next generation of business leaders, right? Now, isn't that a huge responsibility?
It certainly is, especially in the field of global supply chain management.
I see. But before you joined the academe, you were managing global corporations, like multinational companies, like Duty Free International, Sears, Toys R Us, just to name a few. What do you think were the unexpected hurdles in managing big corporations, especially in the supply chain?
So issues in supply chains are typically your out of stocks, late deliveries, forecasting related issues. So your typical supply chain issues are always there. And as a supply chain practitioner, you really have to focus on all of those issues, making sure that you are doing almost everything you possibly can proactively to make sure the goods are moving at the efficient cost, but this at a faster rate. So speed to market is also there, as well as the quality.
I see. Now, the future of the supply chain landscape globally is rapidly changing, as well as in Asia. What do you think are the trends, the risks, and technology impacting the industry right now?
So if we think about the trends, the major trends, you can classify those into two different categories. So technology is the one, and then the mega trends, which is your micro macro trends. So they're second categories. So if you focus on technology, name few, 3D printing, for example, is one of the major trend that could really change the supply chain. Jury is still out in terms of how big of the impact the supply chain will have in 3D printing. So that's the one. Mobile technology, smartphones, and the speed of data that gets transmitted today, and every year thereafter. I mean, it's just the evolution is becoming so rapid. So that is going to drive and will continue to drive the changes in supply chain. In terms of the mega trends in Asia is really this whole emergence of the middle class. So you look at countries like China, India, in many of the ASEAN countries, you have this rising middle class, and you also have mega cities coming along. So this population is moving from rural into the urban side, and this will have a huge impact on how the future of the consumption pattern, as well as the supply pattern and demand pattern, will be managed.
I see. Now, despite the softness of the business outlook for the next 2 years, it looks strong because of consumer and government spending. Is that right? What do you think, or what parts of the economy will outperform?
Well, if you look, so this is such a broad question, so you have to look at the country by country. Okay. So China, for example, I think it used to be the governments had tremendous spending and influence on the economy. Obviously, recently it's changing. I mean, it's becoming more consumption-based and service-based. So I think in the recent trends of slowing down the economy in China, I think it's still going to be that government spending will continue to be neck to neck with the consumer spending.
Okay. So in looking at it from a supply chain manager, what leading indicators to keep an eye on?
Well, obviously your discretionary spending, your retails is a gauge, the barometer to see how people are feeling. Are they feeling confident? Do they want to go out and spend money on eating out, or they want to cook at home? Are they going to go and buy a new pair of shoes, or clothes, or do things that they would typically do when they feel very confident about the economy? If it isn't there, then the mass is not comfortable about the direction of the economy. So I think as as a supply chain professional, or if you're especially on the procurement side, you can start to look at those indicators and start to gauge if the economy is really slowing down.
Okay. Now, recently we have talked to a number of sourcing professionals, and most of them think that supply chain management is a young profession. Do you agree with that?
Well, I don't think it's a young profession. We've been doing supply chain for thousands of years. We never called supply chain. So in terms of the definition of, or using the term supply chain, it is new. What is new also is the globalization, how rapidly we have created these touch points across the supply chain. They touch so many countries, so many continents. So in that terms, it's new.
Okay. And most of these executives mentioned that they should be more engaged in, let's say, board decisions, planning and research. Why do you think it is important to have an empowered procurement function in an organization?
Well, I would actually restate the question as not only the professionals in supply chain needs to be on the table from a procurement standpoint. I think they need to be on the table for entire supply chain. So sourcing and procurement in the front, distribution, logistics, transportation, and S&OP in the middle, and the last mile delivery, retail. All of these functions needs to be integrated. They have to be integrated, and they have to be engaged at the point of making a decision of designing and determining which product to manufacture. So, and the reason I think more than ever that one has to be included, especially supply chain professional needs to be included in organization at the table, is because of when you make the decision of buy or make, in-source or outsource, or where to source, what you're doing, you're allowing those decisions to be much more integrated with other business units so that it's effective. The total landed cost, the total game plan is executed as one team. Absolutely.
Now, as they say, today is the golden age of procurement. Why is procurement such an important role today? Is it because of globalization? Is it technology or the internet?
I think it's honestly, the role is because it has become so dynamic, right? You have, technology is unable you to compare prices, look at where the resources are. So you have to be really very cognizant to the fact that if you're not aware of all of those options that you have available to you, you could be making decisions in dark that can end up costing you serious consequences. So that's why the procurement organization has to be very engaged and very alert about all of those variables they're managing.
Now, a considerable number of U.S. companies are considering reshoring some or all of its operation or manufacturing. How will this reshoring affect global procurement?
I think it's, I don't think that everything is going to be reshored. I think there is a case that can be made about certain product and commodity that can be reshored, especially those with the high value, low labor, meaning if I'm producing something with a high value and requires low labor hours and something that I can automate, then the capital investment to do that automation, it makes sense to do it close to the border or actually in the U.S., within the U.S., right? So that is something has happened and will continue to happen. I think in terms of the low cost item, where it's a low value item but commodity types, will continue to be sourced somewhere which is what economic value makes sense.
Well, the niche parts should be.
That's correct. That's correct. So the core competencies and core product groups probably will be close to the shore or in a right shore, and then rest would continue to be very dynamic, and it will move 5-10 years from places to places, and it'll flow where the best resources are available in terms of labor, the raw material, total landed cost will drive those decisions.
Right, right. So what should suppliers in Asia, especially China, do to minimize the effect of reshoring?
Well, the ways you can continue to gain the market share, or even retain the market share that you have to be efficient, productive, create a value proposition so that when the numbers are crunched, when analysis is done about should we outsource or continue to keep it where it is or insure, you are playing in your favor. So productivity, quality, reliability, all of those things you have to really do well. And if you do those things well, then there's no reason and no ways that companies can justify unless there's a geopolitical risk.
They shouldn't find another supplier.
No.
All right.